And now, aviation weather around Alaska. Hello, I'm National Weather Service Meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska aviation weather. Well, we've had an impactful winter system again move across areas of the state, especially up through the interior now and into south central areas on this Monday. Heaviest snow is tapering off in the Anchorage area as we head toward noontime this Monday. But going into Tuesday, the area of low pressure that takes shape this Monday afternoon over the north central Gulf will continue to slide east-southeastward toward the northern central panhandle by the time we get into midweek. So as a result, conditions by Tuesday morning will have improved across much of south central. We still have areas of IFR, though, along and south of the Brooks Range, north of the Yukon River, and then up along areas of eastern Norton Sound down into the southwest interior, including areas like around Bethel, and then a widespread area of IFR conditions associated with low pressure and a frontal system that's going to work its way up into the lower Bering Sea. By Tuesday afternoon, that front continues to work its way east-northeastward up along the southwest coast, so conditions will be deteriorating here along areas of the Kuskokwim, Bristol Bay, down into the Alaska Peninsula and eastern half of the Aleutians. MVFR conditions lag across areas of the Panhandle, northeastern Gulf, as well as across the central interior on up toward the northwest Arctic coast, including Barrow. So by Wednesday morning, we have low pressure that'll be located here out over the Bering. That low is going to come on shore right around Kuskokwim Bay as we go into Wednesday evening and then cross into the southwest interior. The frontal system ahead of it has a lot of moisture and with it lower ceilings and precipitation. Along the coast, we expect any type of mix of precipitation going over to rain, with the interior seeing snow. That could be mixed with some rain or freezing rain, and the system will continue working its way eastward with IFR conditions spreading once again back up through Cook Inlet, the Kenai Peninsula, and the Anchorage area. And by Wednesday afternoon, we anticipate rather widespread IFR conditions across much of the western, southwest, south central, and Gulf areas of the state. This system will not be as strong, nor will the precipitation be as heavy as with the last couple of systems we've come through since last week. But nevertheless, we will find rather widespread IFR conditions Wednesday afternoon across these locations. And looking at the pass conditions for Tuesday, Anaktuvuk Pass starting out with IFR, especially from there southwestward, becoming MVFR. Same thing, Adigan Pass, IFR conditions from there to the southwest, and then becoming MVFR in the afternoon. Further south, Lake Clark and Merrill will see a brief period of VFR conditions by Tuesday afternoon before the next weather system moves in later Tuesday night, and especially during the day for Wednesday. We're anticipating those IFR conditions I just showed you. Rainy Pass should generally be VFR on Tuesday. Windy Pass, maybe some MVFR early in the day, giving way to VFR conditions. Isabel Pass, also some MVFR in the morning, giving way to VFR. And then Mentasta Pass, also look for marginal visual flight rules there early in the day, giving way to a period of VFR. Tanita Pass, same thing, MVFR in the morning, giving way to VFR. And Portage Pass should generally see VFR conditions during the day on Tuesday. And then up in the far north end of the Panhandle, look for IFR conditions early Tuesday, giving way to improving VFR conditions. So freezing levels at the surface Tuesday morning will run out across the northern and western Bering, and then along just inland of the southwest coast, and then up along the Kenai Peninsula, northern Gulf, and then out through the inner channels of the Panhandle. Notice the freezing levels aloft bump upward to around 10,000 feet here and through the central Aleutians, and upwards of 12,000 feet into the North Pacific. This delineates a frontal boundary that's going to be lifting east-northeastward up to along the southwest coast as we get into Wednesday. So this is that boundary, and as you go further south and west, there'll be more in the way of warmer air aloft. But with the frontal system, we initially expect snow on the north side in the colder air, but then some mix, and then transitioning mainly to rain across the Alaska Peninsula, back down across the Aleutians Tuesday into Wednesday. And freezing levels, we could find icing above 5,000 feet along the coast as the initial push of the front moves the precipitation inland. And then as we get further back toward the southwest here across the lower Bering and especially the Aleutian chain, freezing levels and the icing threat will generally be above 10,000 feet. Some pockets of lighter snow or freezing drizzle back in here through areas of the middle upper Yukon Valley and south slopes of the Brooks Range. We could see some isolated moderate icing above 2,000 feet. So looking at the upper level jet stream pattern at 30,000 feet, we have a core of northwesterly winds coming in across south central into the Gulf as high as 170 knots, and then back to the west. We have a jet core crossing through the central eastern Aleutians up to 150 knots, and then the surface low pressure is sitting back here toward the western Aleutians. As we bring it down to 700 millibars, we still find out over the lower Gulf, North Pacific, northwest winds 50 to 60 knots, but the main core of mid-level winds upwards of 80 to 95 knots will exist from the lower portion of the Alaska Peninsula across the eastern half of the Aleutians, and then at 3,000 feet, we find winds out along the outer portion of the Panhandle as high as 40, 45 knots, but back to the west, a broad area of 50-plus knot winds generally out of the west along the Aleutians into the Alaska Peninsula, with the low pressure back here toward the western southwest corner here of the Bering Sea. As a result, turbulence will be widespread and could be isolated severe along the Aleutian chain up to the tip of the Alaska Peninsula, surface to 3,000 feet. From the system that impacted South Central on Monday, as that low works its way inland here across the northern central Panhandle, we could find some moderate turbulence, surface to 6,000 feet. And then in the far north, there's a trough of low pressure that's going to swing through the Arctic coast and north slope, and that could bring some isolated moderate turbulence, surface to 4,000 feet on Tuesday.